So, guys, I want to review AEW Death Before Dishonor 2024, and I do want to say that this was a really excellent show. And also, I will have to admit that really there are people who care about AEW, there are people who really care about ROH, and definitely AEW does care about putting on really good shows. That definitely I think that it's a little tragic that AEW gets so much bad attention because there's so much negativity out there, but there are wrestlers and fans and a company that definitely cares, and this was definitely well shown, well exemplified throughout the night. And I think it was a detriment to AEW that they were very desperate about selling out the arena, that they charged a very low ticket price, $55, and also that if you go to the ROH tapings on Sunday, if you bought a ticket tonight or a collision ticket, they're gonna give you free tickets to go to the tapings just because they want to make sure they have a big crowd and everything like that, but that's not good. They should really work harder with the presentation of ROH. As I said, I really think that you can have great matches in ROH. They do have great matches, but they really fall in stories and creating wrestlers that can graduate themselves to the main roster. So they had actually four matches that were preliminary before the tapings. No, before the live show, but I really wasn't interested in any of them. So I'm going to start with the Beast Mordos versus Commander, and Commander was doing a really great job in this match. That he actually was doing a bunch of flips. He actually connected with Mordos a couple of times. And was doing a bunch of flip pile drivers, and he really showed a lot. And then also with Mordos, that he was really just, being like the bigger wrestler and also a bit of a luchador. I would say that I think with Mordos, he needs to be more of a powerhouse. I also think that you run into this issue with AEW that if you have muscles, are very not respected. You really are not valued if you have muscles in AEW because as I said, you've seen like Commander take a long time with Mordos when usually it should be a squash match. And then, as I said before, what's going to happen to Mordos next? He's just there to have matches. He's not really there to become a character. Or I would say someone like Don Callis should have him. Or you look at somebody like, the Jericho Appreciation Society, what do you do with a character like Mordos? You can't kind of do something like feature people and then just be like, okay, it's up in the air. But overall, it was a really good match, and there's really no direction after that. The next match was the Undisputed Kingdom versus the conglomeration, Kyle O'Reilly and Tomohiro Ishii. Nothing really stood out to me in this match. They just had a match. There was a bunch of counters and reversals and just spots for everybody, So I didn't really get into that. There was nothing that was memorable to me. But the next match was memorable. Layla Hirsch versus Diamante. This has had to be, the second best match of the night, really. With them, they did a thumbtack spot. Somebody went into the thumbtacks. They also did something where Layla Hirsch laid thumbtacks over Diamante's body and then just did a moonsault onto it, which was very crazy. They did a barbed wire board spot, and then they also did a fall off the ladder spot, and through a table spot. I definitely think that it had the right amount of violence. You just had blood and guts, so I don't think that it was appropriate to over rely on hardcore stuff like throwing people through burning tables. I think that if you kind of almost did that, it would be a little too much, because they seem to overdo it with hardcore matches in AEW, but they're kind of learning over time. You can have good stuff, you can have extreme stuff, but if you kind of have that in a period of a week or whatever, that's a little too much. So I think that they did a great job with this. Like I've said, what do you do with Layla Hirsch? Would you want to have a match with her and Athena, or would you want to do something like like say, okay, we're not going to treat Leela Hirsch like she's special. We're going to like actually have her just like go on in time and be irrelevant, or we're going to put her in the main roster. What would happen if she had a match with Will Nightingale or another person, or Chris Statlander or Britt Baker, or another wrestler that does like hardcore, more intense stuff? You know, like what are you going to do with Leela Hirsch? I boycotted the next match, Lee Moriarty versus Wheeler Yuta. I do not like the Pure Championship because I hate all the rules within that. And for a title that's like secondary, you know, why should you really have so many rules for this? And then also the other thing too is that I'm not a fan of them having a bunch of judges for this title. It's just really stupid. But I'm going to say that Red Velvet versus Billy Starks was a good match. There was a lot of really great offense. I actually was a little annoyed by the finish because because if I remember correctly, there was some interference and there was some bullshit. But what happened was Red Velvet was able to persevere. And I also like the ending where what happened was that Red Velvet was playing possum. Billy Starks fell for it, and then you change the titles. And then I also like this because it made you think that because Red Velvet and Queen Aminata are friends, you're probably thinking that they're going to change the titles tonight, really. But I'm happy that she won. It's just a new face, really. And it's a little weird with Billy Starks because she did win. I believe she beat Queen Aminata with cheating to become the ROH Women's Television Champion. So it's weird because you know, Red Velvet and Aminata, I believe, are the heels, but Billy Starks is kind of like a heel as well, really. You know, so I did think that it's a little weird of a dynamic, but I think I'm happy for Red Velvet. She did a really great job with the match. But as I said, you know, like what would have happened if you had her talk on the microphone? You actually build a character and all this. My favorite match of the night, like the match of the night for me, was Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erichs versus the Dark Order. Evil Uno did a really great job in this match. He had a lot of offense. He really played the heel very good. And also, too, he was really antagonizing the audience. And he kind of just, like, was comical. I like how he's, like, spanking his behind to the audience. Like, he kind of knew that people don't take him seriously. But he has a way of just being obnoxious with it. And as I said, people were making fun of his outfit because he looked like he had a mask that made you think of Shark Boy or Abyss, because you know Abyss kind of has that mask type of thing, big guy with a mask, and then he also had like the tie and the clothes. He looked like a mix of Mick Foley and Shark Boy, but he did a hell of a job just antagonizing the audience. And that's what you're supposed to do. They also did a really great job with this match to kind of make the Dark Order look very credible, but you know, like they were like throwing people to tables, they were cheating, they were double teaming. The Von Erichs just kept fighting back, really, but they did a really great job at making you feel that the Von Erichs were not going to win this one. And Dustin Rhodes did a hell of a job in this match. Very just like really great comebacks and everything like that. Really, I really think that you're going to have a really great match this weekend when you do the 6-man titles. Dustin and the Von Erichs versus the Undisputed Kingdom, and I hope that the Von Erichs win that. But it's a very hard match to predict because the Von Erichs have been a local tag team. They've always been on the Texas shows. So that the 6-man title was just vacated should automatically go to the Dark Order. And it's a little controversial because now they're saying the 6-man titles is vacated. How did that title get vacated when the Bullet Club Gold were stripped of that title and Christian won the AEW trios? They should have had the 6-man title given to the Patriarchy, but they're not doing that. They're actually having that vacated. But just to talk a little bit more about the match, you know, the Dustin Rhodes and Von Erichs, like Dustin did like the Canadian Destroyer. He was very resilient. He knew how to cheer the crowd. The Von Erichs, they kept getting hit and they kept fighting back. They did a lot of great selling. The Dark Order, they really played the heels. They played the obnoxious heels very well because they're not taken seriously, but this time they had a lot of offense. It really made you feel that the Dark Order could be a very serious trios team, But again, they kind of fall into the Brian Cage and Shane Taylor category where um, they'll suspend your disbelief, but in the end of the day, you kind of know they're still going to lose, really. But the next match was the worst match on the card, which was Survival of the Fittest for the ROH World Television Championship. Atlantis Jr., Leo Rush, Shane Taylor, Brian Cage, Lee Johnson, and Giant TV. I think the first thing that I'm going to say is that a lot of people didn't know what a Survival of the Fittest match was, and it's exactly like the Elimination Chamber. Once you pin somebody, they're out, and the match continues until the last pinfall. But people didn't get that, and the first person that I like the back and forth between Brian Cage and the offense that they had between Shane Taylor and Brian Cage. And also, I liked how Johnny TV and Brian Cage were double teaming people. All that stuff was really awesome. But I was mad because Shane Taylor got eliminated first. And I've said this before that you have a big man and the big man's being eliminated first. And that's not good because you have a lot of smaller people. So it's not good to be big man. And then the next person eliminated, I believe, was Leo Rush. And I believe it was Brian Cage who eliminated him. And then you had Lee Johnson and Giant TV. I'm not sure. It was different people eliminating them. But ultimately, Brian Cage lost as well to Atlantis Jr. So you're kind of seeing what we see with AEW. If you're a big man, you lose to smaller people. And then Atlantis Jr. has done nothing to put himself over. I don't see a promo or anything that he's doing, really. So it is like a CMLL person, a bit of an olive branch. I really feel bad for Brian Cage, and I know I did that satirical rap about him, and same thing with Shane Taylor. Again, they have muscles. They have Shane Taylor's a former boxer, but they're booked very poorly. They're basically the jobbers of AEW of ROH. Really. They should be booked a lot better. So I was not happy seeing this match. And definitely seeing Shane Taylor and Brian Cage lose. The next match was Athena versus Queen Aminata. It was a little bad because I was starting to fall asleep during the match. I work a lot of hours, really, but it was a good back and forward. I was mad with the finish with what happened because what I believe Queen Aminata had one of her friends come down, and then Billy Starks and Queen Aminata had one of her friends come down, and then Athena had two of her friends actually come down and help her out, really, and that's how they won. So I was a little mad with the interference and all that, because you had Don Callis come down during the Undisputed Kingdom match and caused an interference. So you did that twice, really, and then the main event you had interference with the Undisputed Kingdom. So you can't overdo it with interference. It does make sense sometimes, but if you overdo it, it's like you're turning to TNA wrestling when every single time they have a championship match, the heels come in and mess everything up. If you overdo it, it's not good. If you do it 3 times in a show, it's not good. So, Mark Briscoe versus Roderick Strong. It was a really great match. Very thrilling. Mark Briscoe had a really crazy week. The crowd was really hating on Roderick Strong, and he really played into it. You got Undisputed Kingdom interfere, and Mark Briscoe persevered over it. And again, as I've said before, I think Roderick Strong should have won this because I think that it's like, where do you go with Mark Briscoe? If he lost this, then he almost has to maybe have a rematch at Wembley Stadium, or maybe you do Okada versus Mark Briscoe. It would be a way. You need to kind of graduate him out of the ROH title. And yeah, even though his brother passed away, you got to get over it. You can't be because he's one of the reasons why he's champion is just to kind of, do something for his brother's memory, really. And that's true. He's lived up to a lot of expectations, but he needs to kind of graduate from being the ROH champion. He needs to go after an AEW championship or even the AEW championship. But yeah, it was a really great match, really great back and forward. They fought in the crowd, they did some blading. It was a lot of good back and forward. And then Mark Briscoe overcame the odds, really, and he had a really crazy week. He's in Death Before Dishonor. And then he was also in the Blood and Guts match, and now tomorrow he's at Collision. wrestling in a trios team. So he's had one hell of a week, really. I think to me, he's definitely the workhorse of AEW for 2025, really. But that's definitely what I have to say, really. It was really great. And then the last thing I'm going to say is that, that overall was a really great show. I give it a B plus. There was a lot of strengths to this show. I'm not a fan of AEW having these shows and putting a match card together at the last minute. I'm also will say that I do think that I really just think that there's a lot of strengths to the show. Everybody really delivered and they really cared about it. The pure title, it needs to go. You can't have 3 finishes with interference, and then definitely you got to book your big men a lot better, and then you got to listen to your crowd. You have people cheering for Shane Taylor, Brian Cage, Dalton Castle, Johnny TV. They can't just be jobbers. So overall, AEW has a lot of things to build up from this, and the question is always, are they going to build up from this?